Welcome to Primetime Picks on Daily Dodge TV and 1430 ESPN Beaver Dam. Sitting alongside me is Cory Sparks, the resident fantasy expert in the office. I'm Charlie Dern. This week we've got our lessons learned, some Packers prop talk, fantasy corner for Week 11 of the NFL, and of course our picks. Cory, that was a hectic week in the NFL.
Yeah, we're learning a lot. And we can start with mine here. Kind of an unexpected narrative that's being sketched out here. We've got the Broncos turning a corner. I don't really know what's on the other side yet. But Courtland Sutton, we'll talk a little bit about him throughout this. He's looking like a sustainable fantasy option. And Russell Wilson's looking like he turned back the clock about 6 or 7 years. And Buffalo's in trouble. Remaining schedule is not pretty. They're down to 5-5. James Cook has major fumble issues. Got really lucky on that breakout 40-yard run where it bounced off the turf and then went back into his breadbasket. And Josh Allen's turnover issues, that's kind of always been a storyline, but it's really starting to rear its ugly head here. So
The Bills have a lot of questions to be answered here, and especially like their window. Their window might be closing, and now I don't really know what to think about the Bills at all this season. I know they're injured on defense, and Josh Allen just turns it all over carelessly every time. And like you were talking about with the Broncos, I don't know what to think about the Broncos. I don't know what to think about teams like the Browns. There's a lot of weird teams going on right now in the NFL. The Broncos I really like this week, and I'll talk about that later. They just feel like they're consistent right now. They're not playing super well in any regard. Their defense is playing better. Their offense is playing better. They're still not great. We still know what they are, but
they're not giving up 70 points anymore.
Yeah, right. As for me, lessons learned, we knew this, but the Steelers just win games. They beat the Packers this week. I don't know what I was expecting from the Packers. I thought that maybe we could pull it off. I don't know. Kenny Pickett's not any good. I don't really trust him at all. But at the end of the day, Mike Tomlin always has that team ready to go, and he always has that team in a position to win games. I think the last quarterback on the Packers to beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh was Bart Starr. I'm pretty sure that's a stat. I'm pretty sure. So
Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers were not able to pull it off. It's interesting with the Steelers, right? I think it's a textbook example of situational football. I heard one of the broadcasters bring it up during the game. We're at the Pack Attack party. The Steelers have been outgained in every game so far. But that's just it. Yeah. When you get in the red zone, you're able to convert. It doesn't happen often, but it's something about Mike Tomlin. It's something about that offense that shows up when it matters most, even if it's not very often.
Yeah, and we canceled the Steelers earlier. At least I did. I canceled them. I'm done.
Confusing.
No games, nothing to do with them at all. No totals, no sides. Just stay away from Steelers-related games because any given game it'll be a one score. Who wins? I don't know. The other lesson that I learned this week was Trevor Lawrence. He hasn't taken that next step. I really thought that he was going to take that next step. I have multiple futures of his over passing totals. I have over touchdowns. I have MVP. None of those are going to hit. They're all dead. It's okay. He has, I believe, more turnovers than passing touchdowns this year. There's a lot of quarterbacks that have more passing touchdowns than him this year. It's really bad. I know that they're fine. I'm not worried about the Jags per se. They played the Niners coming off a bye last week. I'm really not too worried about them overall, but Trevor Lawrence needed to take that step in order for them to be anything more than they were last year, which was a one-and-done playoff team.
I love the MVP odds for Lawrence coming into the year. And it's funny, right? I've been making excuses for him all year. I stopped a couple of weeks ago because we're kind of running out of him. He's got the world at his fingertips. He has one of the deepest, if not best, wide receiving cores in the league right now. He's got Zay Jones. He's got Calvin Ridley. He's got Christian Kirk. Evan Ingram just got re-signed. Travis Etienne's been healthy. I didn't name anybody who's been injured for a prolonged period of time. Like Zay Jones is
I think he just got hurt. Yeah.
Right? But for the most part, up to this point, a little over halfway through the season, Trevor Lawrence has been working with one of the more healthy and talented receiving cores in the league, and he just hasn't performed. He hasn't been bad, but when you look at his standards at the beginning of the year and you look at where he is now, there's a huge separation, right?
Totally. And the last thing that I have, it's not even a lesson that I learned, but I have no idea what to think about the Browns. I've loved the Browns all year. We talk about them almost every episode. I love the Browns. Their defense is phenomenal. They have one of the best rushing attacks in the league. Now Deshaun Watson's hurt right as it seemed that he turned that corner and started to actually pick up from where he was in Houston. So I have really no idea what to think about them.
Specifically this week, it's going to be another AFC North matchup. I think they just lean on the run, Charlie. I mean, we've seen them do it before when P.J. Walker filled in. Obviously, there's a change at the quarterback spot now with DTR coming in. It's usually just Jerome Ford, and more Jerome Ford. And recently, obviously, because of the Nick Chubb injury, they went out and signed Kareem Hunt again. I think it's going to be ground and pound. They might turn into the most run-heavy team in football. They already almost were, and now they're out of a quarterback.
Well, let's move on to the Packers props talk. So For this, I'm thinking we start off with the leaders, and then we talk about props that we like this week based on how they've performed earlier in the season. A lot of stuff with props and betting on my own team, I always try and avoid. I've talked about it before. Separate my wallet from my heart, separate church and state. We're going to do it anyways. I don't like betting on Packers props. I don't even like betting on their sides because especially with the Packers, it feels like they can really spread the ball out and really anybody on a given week is going to score a touchdown. And we all know that Matt LaFleur isn't going to give Aaron Jones the amount of touches that I think that he deserves. Passing leader this year is Jordan Love. He's been our only passer this year. Sean Clifford's still backing us up. His yards per game is at 223. His touchdowns, he's at 14 touchdowns. Rushing yards per game, he's at 20. That's interesting. I'll talk about that in a second. The Week 11 props with Jordan Love that I saw that I sort of like, he's got an over-under passing total of 226.5. So that would have to be over his yards per game average on the season. But as you'll mention and as I know, the Chargers' passing defense is really bad.
Abysmal.
Really bad. The other prop that I like, over-under 1.5 passing touchdowns. That's plus 114 on the over. If he's going to get 2 touchdowns against a team, the Chargers are one of the best teams for him to do that against. And then that rushing prop this week, his total rushing yards is 15.5 rushing yards. He averages 20 per game, like I said earlier. I probably am leaning towards the under on that. I don't really see him just, all of a sudden putting the ball away and running, but we'll see. What about rushing and receiving?
Yeah, we'll just go over the general leaders here and then get more into props with these. I really like that we're emphasizing the passing here because, like you mentioned, the Chargers don't exactly have a great secondary right now. And to your rushing point, I think what we've seen with Jordan Love is he doesn't run if he doesn't have to. But if pressure gets home, he's getting out of there pretty quick. He's been good about that. Rushing leaders, we've got A.J. Dillon at 376 on the ground. Aaron Jones and Jordan Love both have 2 rushing touchdowns, so there's that dual threat aspect we talked about with Love. Receiving, it's Jaden Reed leading the pack right now with total reception yards. Total receiving yards. He's at 417. That's 46.3 per game. Romeo Doubs has 6 receiving touchdowns, and Christian Watson leads the way. Big play potential at 16.9 yards per reception. So he's still that vertical threat. He may have had some recent performances that have kind of stirred up some of the fan base, but for the most part, he's still that deep threat on this team.
I always thought that Christian Watson was going to be the guy. Before the season, his receiving touchdown prop was 4.5, and everybody on earth was saying over.
Yep.
And what do you know? He doesn't.
There's
He has a
time left.
one this year. I don't know. Defensive-wise, leading in tackling is Quay Walker with 66 tackles. Rudy Ford is actually our second leading tackler with 58. He also has the 2 INTs, which leads the team. And then Isaiah McDuffie, he was a 6th-round pick a couple years ago. From that draft, I believe that was the 2021 draft. If you look at that draft from the Packers, Isaiah McDuffie is one of the best players that we got, and we got him in the 6th round. Not good. There's a lot of bad Packers draft stuff that's going on right now. This whole team it's not working. And then leading in sacks is Preston Smith with just 5. We haven't gotten to the quarterback very well this year. What I want to do is just quick picks. When you hear Packers Chargers, what does your mind take you to when it comes to props?
Yeah, the one that sticks out to me, Charlie, is over 43.5 total points between the two teams. I mean, this is a Green Bay offense. We kind of hit on this earlier. They started to find their groove a little bit. They don't have a definitive answer at wide receiver yet. They've got a couple candidates for sure, but no leader of the pack guy. They hit their groove against Pittsburgh. I mean, you look at the score, it wouldn't look like that, but, I mean, Jordan Love's pushing the ball down the field vertically a little bit more. He's hitting tight windows. There was a really nice throw to Luke Musgrave. Jaden Reed in the corner of the end zone. He's looking more confident. This offense still figuring out their identity. I'd say that's a fair statement. We'll talk about this later, again, but the Chargers defense has struggled mightily against the pass this year. The run for the Packers is going to be interesting because Aaron Jones finally got his reps. I think he had 20 rushes on the ground for 70-something yards. And he didn't look great. And then A.J. Dillon, ironically enough, actually was the one to break free a huge run. I think it's going to come down to the ground game. The front 7 for Los Angeles is actually crazy talented. That's where the majority of their cap has gone. But and then when we look on the other side of the coin, regardless of who wins this, I think LA is going to score a decent amount. I would say that the run game is kind of the Achilles heel for the Packers. Would you say that's fair on defense?
I'd say all of it's bad. So
yeah. And we look on the other end, and we've got Austin Eckler, one of the most dominant two-way backs in the league. So I think this easily goes over 43.5.
I really wish I could report live. I'll have boots on the ground on Sunday. I want to watch the warm-ups and really dial in on what the props are looking like. But Alas, what came to mind for me is Christian Watson anytime touchdown. He's plus 215. We just talked about his struggles. It's been a big media thing. Jordan Love had to have a one-on-one with him to help boost his confidence. It's not looking great for Christian Watson right now. This is a perfect team for him to finally get a touchdown against and start to turn his season around. Then I also had Aaron Jones anytime touchdown. I think the Packers are going to try and use him a lot in the air. So I think he's going to have a lot of chances to make a big play, whether it comes from catching the ball or running with the ball. I think he's going to find his way into the end zone this week. That's at plus 105. So pretty solid odds there. The other one, like I was just saying, over 23.5 receiving yards. This is minus 120. So you're biting a little bit of the juice on that, but I think that he's going to get his work through the air.
See, I like that a lot, Charlie, because if you look at this Packers receiving core, they're all young. If it wasn't for the fact that you and I are not NFL-level talented, we could fit in with them. They're all 22, 23, 24, 25. The veterans on this team are in the backfield. It's Aaron Jones and turning into A.J. Dillon as well. And I think the most easy thing you could do for somebody like Jordan Love right now, basically going into a new system, yes, he's been sitting back and learning for a while, but so many young receivers, check it down. Check it down to one of the best open field running backs in the league in Aaron Jones. So I like that one a lot.
When we move on to our parlay later, we'll come back to the Packers props and we'll add one in as the group play because, well, Cory, our parlay hasn't been hitting at a very high rate. So yeah, we need to change it up, shake it up a bit. Let's move on to the fantasy corner. So now it's time for the playoff push. There's 4 games left in the regular season. There's been some league winners, later round guys that are really propelling teams forward right now, and then there's some guys with an easy remaining schedule that maybe they should target with the trade deadline coming up.
Yeah, for sure. We can start with just some of the league winners for sure. Just like, I guess we could say fantasy breaking headlines. We'll start with those. Justin Fields is going to be back, one of the better dual threat quarterbacks. And, you could say what you want about him as a regular quarterback, but as a fantasy quarterback, he's going to get the job done. Josh Allen's struggling. Those turnovers are really starting to bite some of his fantasy owners and more so the Bills' record. But Travis Etienne goes down, and Justin Jefferson's working his way back. I've been watching that closer than anything else this week because I'm a huge Justin Jefferson owner. It looks like he'll be back. He's been limited in practice rolling into Wednesday. We'll have to see how involved he is. League winners, Brian Robinson. That might be the most unexpected one here before we go into later round guys. Really volume reliant. Was not high on him at all coming into the year. And then last week he goes off for 6 receptions for 119 yards and a score. So a complete flip, something we're more used to seeing from Antonio Gibson, who I thought would take more touches away from him, but he just hasn't. CeeDee Lamb's been a god. And then if we look at later round guys who have really shown up, as of recent, Josh Dobbs, we'll talk a little bit about him in the easiest remaining schedule segment. Rashad White's been phenomenal. Just volume, 3.2 yards per carry is actually horrible, but lots of touchdown involvement and plenty of receiving involvement as well. Sam Laporte has been a nice surprise, hovering around that top 5 area. C.J. Stroud has been key for volume. Sam Howell, key for volume. That's the most pass-heavy team in the entire NFL. Tyjae Spears, he's starting to take some reps away from Derrick Henry, and David Montgomery's been a volume guy as well, but we're starting to see Jahmyr Gibbs kind of get into his zone. Easiest remaining schedules, I'd like to get your feedback on kind of how you think these guys are going to do. Josh Dobbs, Zach Wilson, Dak Prescott, and Justin Fields. Those are the names who have easy remaining schedules. Who out of there do you think could really take advantage?
I'm a big Dak Prescott believer. Okay. People are probably going to get sick of me talking about the Cowboys. I've been using my Cowboys lately with how the Packers have been playing because I've got so much stock in the Cowboys this year that if you can build a battery of Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, you're doing very well. That's not really in the picture for a lot of people. But I think Dak Prescott out of those 4 is most intriguing to me with an easy schedule. Josh Dobbs is fun. It's a little bit of a Linsanity run. I don't know how long that's going to last. Zach Wilson, nope, out, no way. And then Justin Fields, like you said, he's a good fantasy quarterback. I'm not a huge believer when it comes to how they're actually going to do with him on the field. And I really don't know where the Bears are, what they're going to do with him.
I don't think they know what they're going to do.
Yeah, I don't think they do either. I was talking with my roommate about that last night. We had no idea what's a good strategy to even do there. I don't know, but if he gets banged up again, I think they're going to sit him for the rest of the year.
For sure. Just shut him down. And then we'll go to the running backs. Isaiah Pacheco and Austin Eckler, 2 very optimal situations. Wide receivers, obviously, if passing offense is going very well against an opposition. For Dak Prescott, yes, CeeDee Lamb's on here as well. That's a great stack, like you said. New England receivers. Yeah, I can't really name one.
No.
Demario Douglas has been starting to show up the last couple of weeks. And then tight ends, Dallas, Arizona, Baltimore. So we got Mark Andrews. Buffalo, we got Dalton Kincaid. Cleveland, David Njoku, and a few more.
I don't know what to do with the New England receivers. Kendrick Bourne was kind of fun for a little while.
Couple weeks, yeah.
Sure, but now it's kind of whatever. I think another one that we missed is Jacoby Myers. He's been really good. He's been really solid, and well, I guess that might be because I'm partial and biased, and I'm a Devontae Adams owner.
Yep.
He hasn't done much this whole year. He's been fine, like top 15 wide receiver, but Jacoby Myers has really stepped up in that role of wide receiver too. Canceled list, Cory. We mentioned the Bills earlier. I'll just start off with them. I'm not canceling the Bills. We're not done. I'm not done. I won't bet them this week, I'll say that. But they're on cancel watch. I'm not going to cancel them, but I think that it's time that we start to give up on them and stop betting on them, because last week against the Broncos, that was a game where not only did they have to win, but a lot of people assumed that that was going to be their coming out party. Like, we're back. We never left. We're still the Bills. They're on cancel watch. They're not actually canceled.
All right. Well, a promise is a promise. He who shall not be named starts with T and ends in Oni Pollard. I am not doing anything with him for the rest of the year. I bet on him twice. Was so confident. 17-point favorites at one point. That's what Dallas was over New York. Nope. Rico Dowdle, CeeDee Lamb. I wish I could name them all right now, but I'd probably lose it. So a lot of players scored for Dallas. Tony Pollard was not one of them. Actually went down to the 1-inch line and then was, as you would say, vultured by Jake Ferguson in the flat. There's another one. So, yeah, that's done.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. And, of course, now that you did that, this week he's going to score a touchdown, maybe even
two.
He's
going to get like 40 points.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be great.
Well, we're going to go to break, and on the other side, we're breaking down Week 11 of the NFL with a couple of picks and touchdown scores on 1430 ESPN Beaver Dam and Daily Dodge TV. Welcome back to Primetime Picks on Daily Dodge TV and 1430 ESPN Beaver Dam. Charlie Dern joined by Cory Sparks. We just recapped Week 10. We talked some Packers props. We talked some fantasy football. And now we've got some picks to make. I'll lead us off. So,
This is
fun. Bad. This is bad.
Fun.
I don't know why.
Okay?
I don't know why I'm doing this.
Are you all right?
All right. So this could be a really, really bad decision. The Giants +9. The Giants are at the Commanders, over-under of 37 points, and we're taking the Giants in this one. Okay. This could be really bad. The Giants are really bad. The Giants are horrible. The Commanders are hot. The Giants are not. It opened at 10, so that's where I was like, okay, 10 points, it's kind of a key number, 7 and 10. You get the next key numbers 13 and 14. So if we're at 10, I like it. It was at 9 when I saw it. I'm hoping it moves back to 10 and you can get that 10. But we're going to go with the 9 anyways. I feel like I'm going to miss out on a push at 10. I might have missed the boat on this one. That being said, the Giants play well against the Commanders. Earlier this season, I think the Giants won 14-7.
That was true.
That was in the Meadowlands. Now we're in Maryland. The Giants are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 against the Commanders. I don't know. This feels like it's the Giants. I'm trying to justify it with numbers. They're 7-2-1 straight up in their last 10 against the Commanders.
Okay.
They play well against this team, and I don't think that Ron Rivera is a good coach. I don't think Dable's a good coach. I should say that.
Yeah, he's having a rough year.
And then the last 5 that the Giants have gone on the road to play the Commanders, they're 5-0 against the spread. So there's a lot of numbers here that point towards the Giants being good in this spot. This could be a total disaster, and I don't know why I bet on Tommy DeVito or any of that, and I regret everything. That being said, let's move forward. You've got a game in the Buccaneers and Niners game. The Buccaneers are on the road in that one. They are +12, and the over-under is 41.
You kind of talked me into your pick. I will start with that. I'm not going to lie. I looked at it, and I was like, no, absolutely not. It's the Giants. But we've said this before. Styles make fights. It's a divisional matchup. They won the last one. These are usually ugly games. But yeah, Bucs +12 against San Francisco. I could also regret this one if San Francisco looks like they did last week. This is obviously a huge response from Vegas to the 34-3 blowout over, I would say, a contender in Jacksonville. Tampa Bay is 6-3 against the spread in their last 9 games. Bucs games have gone under in 6 of the last 7 weeks, so follow me here. This could be an ugly game, and if it ends up being a 20-13 or something like that, which is kind of what I'm hoping for and banking on, it's going to be tough with the way the Bucs defense has been playing. All of a sudden, we've got the spread covered. Defense got back on track last week. They only allowed like 206, 207 yards of offense to the Titans. Not saying much. It was kind of a get-right game. Mike Evans is questionable, so I will preface this. If he does not play, I'm less confident in this for sure. This is the largest line of deficit the Bucs have faced all year. They have not been this heavy of underdogs in 2023. I see them at least keeping it close. By no stretch of the imagination would I say they win this game. But
does worry me a little bit when teams travel across the country for a
Yeah,
game.
that's true.
And especially with the Niners looking hot last week coming off the bye. I am nervous about this one. If this gets to 13 or 14, I'll definitely join you on the Bucks. With it being at 12, it's kind of in that middle Vegas zone that I just don't really like. My second pick, total hater pick. Total hater pick. Vikings are at the Broncos. Broncos are 2.5-point favorites, over under 42.5. This is Sunday Night Football. This is a big game for both teams. I'm a hater. I think the Linsanity run for Josh Dobbs might be over in Denver on Primetime. The Vikings have won 5 straight games. They look great. Josh Dobbs came in. He's immediately won them 2 games. One of them he filled in for. I think he was there for 5 days before that game.
Yeah.
He looks great. I'll say it. But I think the Linsanity run has to end somewhere. I do like the Broncos at -2.5. But I'm a coward, and I'm just going to take the money line just to make sure, just don't mess with the points. Don't have a 1-point win on a field goal or something like that. Somebody has to win this game, so I'm going consistency over the magic here with the Vikings having won 5 straight. Sure, I get it, but that's kind of a magical run, especially without Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson. It kind of took some magic to get there. The Broncos have been much more consistent here, and I think the public's going to be all over Josh Dobbs in this magical run that the Vikings have been on. And lastly, just to justify it with some kind of numbers, because I hate both of them. I hate the Broncos.
Yeah.
I don't hate the Vikings from a betting perspective. I do hate them from a fandom perspective. But the Broncos are 4-2 straight up in their last 6 against the Vikings. So they win these games, and they're here to compete. So I think that'll be fine. Your second pick, we're going to Titans at Jaguars. Jaguars are 7-point favorites in that one, over under of 40.
Yeah, I'm probably speaking pretty bold here for someone who's 5-8, but this feels like free money. -7 against Tennessee. The Will Levis era started out great, right? But the Titans have now scored 22 points in the last 2 games combined. The Jaguars are coming off of a beating by San Francisco. I think they come back strong. Historically, and by historically I mean the last 5 or 6 years, Derrick Henry has dominated this head-to-head series. But for the first time in years, he's getting less volume. He's actually below 20 rushes per game for the first time in 4 or 5 years. He's been getting outsnapped by Tyjae Spears the last 2 weeks. It's starting to look like a tendency. The Titans lack that driving force on offense, and Jacksonville's stacked. Maybe Trevor Lawrence is mid this year, but I think they've got more than enough to turn this into an ugly game and blow them out.
The Jags aren't great at home, which scares me about them laying a full touchdown in that. But I do like the Jags to bounce back, and if they're getting a full 7, then I feel like you have to trust it. Anytime touchdown scores, I've got James Conner. This is a name that he's been hurt for a lot of the season. He hasn't scored since week 2 before his injury, so I'm going to use the he's due argument. He did return last week, and he did not score a touchdown, so I like that. They're playing against the Texans, who have the fifth most rushing touchdowns allowed this season with 11. And, yeah, this strategy worked before with Bijan Robinson when I picked him to score against the Texans. It worked then. I think I can transition it over, and it'll work now.
Just don't use it on he who shall not be named.
Yeah. No Tony Pollard. No Tony
there.
Pollard.
I'll go Austin Eckler. Green Bay, their Achilles heel on defense has been that front 7 and stopping the run. They've allowed 3 different teams to run for over 200 yards. It'll be nice weather for us, up in Green Bay. I would say 40 degrees is pretty good. But Los Angeles is used to playing in climate-controlled SoFi Stadium. I don't think they air it out as much this time. Eckler has more touchdowns than any non-QB in the last couple of years, so I see him scoring here.
Let's move on to the parlay. So I mentioned earlier that we're going to keep doing our own picks. And then before we were just doing a random prop. Could have been anything in the league. Could have been a side total, anything. Those weren't hitting. We were 1 for 6, almost down 4 units on that. We're going to change it up. We're going to shake it up a bit. We'll add a Packers prop in there. Okay. So I'm going to try and stick to my gut feeling, not look at the numbers too much on those. But overall, yes, Packers prop there. I'll lead us off on the parlay. I'm going Davante Adams anytime touchdown. This could be a cop-out. He hasn't scored all season. I think his last touchdown was like week 3. He hasn't scored. I don't know what to do. He hasn't scored, so I feel like this just has to be taken, especially against the Dolphins. Raiders are on the road. I think games in Miami, there's always tons of points. Davante's got to get one. If he's going to get one, it's going to be against the Dolphins.
That's fair. I'll go Sam Howell over 245.5 passing yards. He's passed this markup easily over the course of the last 4 weeks. And 4 weeks ago, they did play against the Giants and lost. If they do end up working from behind and this was the spread pick that you have hits, all of a sudden Sam Howell's got to throw it a lot more. Washington defense is horrible. They do throw the ball 68% of the time on offense, the highest rate in the league. So I think there's a lot of chances there for Howell.
Moving on to the Packers prop. So I talked about earlier, Christian Watson to score a touchdown, Aaron Jones to score a touchdown, and Aaron Jones over 23.5 receiving yards. For me, I'm personally leaning towards the Aaron Jones over 23.5 receiving yards. And then I see you have Jordan Love over 226 passing yards. Which of those four do you think we should go with?
I'm between Jones and Love. It's got to be in the passing game. The Chargers allow the most passing yards per game. I've picked the last two, and that screwed up our parlays. We would have 3 wins right now. Let's go Aaron Jones over 23.5.
All right, let's go Aaron Jones over 23.5 receiving yards. So our parlay is Sam Howell over 245.5 passing yards, Devontae Adams anytime touchdown, and then Aaron Jones over 23.5 receiving yards. That's all we've got for this week's edition of Primetime Picks on Daily Dodge TV and 1430 ESPN Beaver Dam.